at the school board meeting, Monday, October 14th. We expect our other board member, Director Corman, any minute. So please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to ask for a motion to establish a closed session upon the conclusion of tonight's meeting of the school board.
So moved.
The meeting will be closed as permitted by Section 13D.03 to discuss the district's labor negotiation strategy related to the district's negotiations with all bargaining groups.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Thank you. All right. Now I would like to ask for approval of the evening's agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor of the agenda as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. That brings us to recognition of students, staff, and public. And I would like to call upon John Weiser and Mark Hinton to come to the podium, please.
Good evening, Chair Bartolotta, Superintendent Fujitaki, board members. We're here tonight to recognize two students. You'll see them on the screen in a moment. Well, I'll just tell you, it's Allison and Kenneth. Kenneth couldn't be here tonight, so we're going to recognize Allison for the work they did with us in the technology department this last spring as part of their course of study. Internships are a key element for us as we try to do our part in achieving pathways to career and college readiness. And so we now have a regular routine of having student interns in our department at least 2 of the 3 seasons of the year, plus in addition giving some experiential work in the summer. So having a group of students come and help us in the summer. Allison and Kenneth came to us because they had identified technology as an important potential goal area in their PGP, their personal growth plan. And so we wanted, part of our goal in designing this program is to help students explore that curiosity and have some solid work experience to see if it's the right fit for them. So I'll let Mark Hinton introduce Allison and tell you a little bit more about what she did with us.
The internship is designed around flexible learning path, and our goal is to have the interns drive the topics of their learning because technology is such a big field for learning, and we want them to find and explore the areas that are most exciting to them. We've had summer interns for 3, almost 4, maybe 4 years now, but Allison and Kenneth are the second semester of interns that we've had where they receive credit for their learning with us. Kenneth, from day one, was a phenomenal at repair. He really enjoyed hardware repair and really dove into that. Allison was far more interested in creative aspect of technology, coding. From the very first day, she focused on learning with larger goals in mind. There were days when her entire focus was learning what new tricks she would apply to a website, or a way to improve it, or how to install a new tool to make her coding easier. Our goal with the internship program is to introduce interested students to aspects of technology that aren't available in a typical classroom setting, and we do this by providing access to the tools that we have and to the team that we have of people immersed in technology by day. So Allison, I'm going to present you with this internship certificate. And if you'll step up here, I'll have a couple questions just to prompt you. What did you take away from your internship experience?
One thing that I took away was that it's okay to fail. And I went into this internship not really knowing anything about technology, like coding or anything of that sort. And just like allowing myself to fail, and that's okay, and like learning how to get back up And some days you just have to put it down and come back to it tomorrow. And so, yeah, learning to fail was what I took away.
And would you share with everybody what you're going to be doing here in a week?
So on Monday, I am shipping out to South Carolina for a Marine boot camp,
And you're going to specialize in,
communications. So going into technology.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you, and good luck to you as you embark on that new career. Let's bring up Jason Anderson, principal of Jefferson High School, to introduce the National Merit semifinalists and commended students. And I just want to say that tonight we're introducing the Jefferson students, and on October 28th, we'll have the Kennedy students in.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chair, Superintendent Fujitaki, distinguished members of the school board and district administration. Thank you for allowing me time this evening. School, students, and their families are greatly appreciative of this opportunity. My name is Jason Anderson, principal of Jefferson High School, and it's an absolute honor to be here tonight to recognize these amazing Jefferson students and their success. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation is perhaps the most well-known name in academic excellence, and achievement in its awards are sought by students across the country. Today, I proudly present to you 9 of the best and brightest Jefferson High and Bloomington Public Schools has to offer. These students will undoubtedly go on to achieve even greater acclaim in the future. So at this time, I invite the following 3 students to come up and join me at the podium. Students, as you come up, please introduce yourself to the board and remain near the podium. All right, so will you please join me if you are here, Timothy Luth, Ashley Marker, and Thomas Quiggle. None of them are here. But congratulations anyway. All right, so moving on.
I'm studying, yeah.
All right, so these National Merit Scholarship commended students placed among the top 5% of all high school students in the country who underwent this rigorous testing process. Jefferson High School is proud to announce these 3 students as earning National Merit Commended status. Congratulations in absentia. All right, so I have 6 other students that I would like to present to you this evening. Would these students please join me at the podium? Students, again, as you arrive, please greet and introduce yourself to the board. Caitlin Brandwick, Jolene Clark, Colden Longley, Christopher Melville, Charles Weissman, and Henry Weissman.
Hello, my name is Jolene Clark.
My name is Colden Longley.
I'm Katie Brandwick.
My name is Christopher Melville.
I'm Henry Wiseman.
And I'm Charlie Wiseman.
Henry.
So these 6 students are among the top 1% of all high school students in the country. These National Merit Scholarship semifinalists are continuing their pursuit of the National Merit Scholarship finalists and ultimately Scholar Award winners. They will continue to compete for these distinctions and college scholarships. Good luck on your next steps, and congratulations on your successes so far. Students, you may sit, but we need to get a picture in the hallway in just a minute. So, all right, students, you can sit down. Thank you very much for joining us. All right, Bloomington Jefferson High School is extremely proud of all of these students, and we're thankful to them for their hard work and dedication. And thank you to all their families for their dedicated support. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank the parents and recognize them for all their support of the students. Sure, go, take your picture. All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to the Lights On After School proclamation. Would someone like to move that,
Madam Chair,
please?
be resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 authorizes the attached proclamation declaring the week of October 21st, 2019 as Lights On After School Week, the 20th annual national celebration of after-school programs.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to read the proclamation quickly. Whereas the Bloomington School Board stands firmly committed to equality out of school time programs and opportunities because they provide safe, challenging, engaging, and fun learning experiences to help children and youth develop social, emotional, physical, cultural, and academic skills. It supports working families by ensuring their children are safe and productive after the regular school day ends. It builds stronger communities by involving our students, parents, business leaders, and adult volunteers in the lives of our young people, thereby promoting positive relationships among children, youth, families, and adults, and engages families, schools, and diverse community partners in advancing the welfare of our children. Whereas the Youth and Family Department has provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality out-of-school time programs are key to helping our children become successful adults. Whereas Lights On After School, a national celebration of out-of-school time programs, promotes the critical importance of quality before and after school programs in the lives of children, their families, and their communities. Therefore, be it resolved that the Bloomington School Board declares the week of October 21st, 2019, Lights On After School Week. And be it further resolved that the Bloomington School Board enthusiastically endorses Lights On After School and is committed to innovative, out-of-school time programs and activities that ensure the lights stay on and the doors stay open for all children before and after school. Is there any discussion about the, no? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None. Thank you. I'd like to invite Christy Christensen, the Youth and Family Coordinator at Washburn Elementary School, and Kurt Christensen, the Youth and Family Coordinator at Oak Grove Elementary, to the podium.
All right. Thank you very much for having us tonight. We appreciate it. And first of all, we would like to invite everyone here to come to our event if you are able and would like to come. So it is Friday, October 25th here at Oak Grove Middle School. From 6:30 to 7:30, we are going to have an event with activities. It's free to all elementary families in Bloomington. The activities will be games and prizes for the kids. And then at 7:30, we're going to have a movie in the auditorium. It's Monster House rated PG, so it's just a family-friendly movie, and we'll have free, healthy snacks for the families. And we hope that a lot of people will take advantage, just a fun night out with their families. From 6:30 to 7:30, we have the Bloomington firefighters and some police and explorers and McGruff coming, so it should be a fun night. Anything you want to add?
Go Pack.
Yeah. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Playing tonight?
And one more thing, I would just like to note that the MSBA, the Minnesota School Board Association delegates for the 2019 and 2020 years, it's a 2-year term, have been selected, and Bloomington has 3 of the 7 representatives, Beth Beebe, Nellie Corman, and myself. And each year, the delegates discuss and vote on various legislative resolutions submitted by school boards and individual school board members. These resolutions that receive a majority vote, as well as positions adopted during previous years, become the basis for the MSBA staff lobbying efforts on behalf of all public schools and board members. So Bloomington's going to be well represented. Yeah.
Cool.
So I did that. Are there any, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the school board on an item that is not on the agenda this evening? Seeing no one come forward, we also may have some students in the audience that are here for their government class. Thank you. Is that true? If there are, would you please step forward and state your name and tell us who your teacher is? Just so it's on film, so we know you were here. Mr. Storling can't say you weren't here.
Hi, I'm Mal Bowman. My teacher's Mr. Storlene.
I'm still Christopher Melville, and my teacher is Mr. Storlene.
I'm Jack Simonet, and my teacher is Mr. Storlene.
I'm Andrew Wilson. I'm also with Mr. Storley.
I'm Alexander Atkins, and I'm also Storlene.
I'm Colin Alton. I'm also Storlene.
Thank you for coming. And we ask that you stay for at least an hour, and then one of our staff members will sign your agenda, okay, which are on the counter over there on the side. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the Part A of the agenda. Would someone like to move Part A, please?
So moved.
Second, thank you. Part A is our board business, our field trips, grants, and contracts and finance. All in favor of Part A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Brings us to Part B, Next Technologies for Learning Update. And I invite John Weiser and Katrina Mesera to the podium. Thank you, or the table.
An all-technology evening tonight. Good evening, Chair Bartolotta, Superintendent Fujitaki, board members. I'm here with Katrina Mesra, Digital Learning and Data Manager for the district. We like to come about this time every year and give you a preview of our school year goals under NTL. And so that's the primary purpose of this evening. I'm going to take a couple minutes to set us up with some of the foundational elements. We're about 5 years into to NTL, and we've laid this solid foundation on which now you're seeing some of the programming that Katrina is going to talk about. So, NTL started, our Next Technologies for Learning started, as you know, with the 2013 Safe and Innovative Schools referendum. We set out at that time, I gave about 25 plus informational presentations, as did others, about the potentials of technology inside of an educational system to enhance the learning that's going on and to really innovate in terms of engaging with our students and with our community and transferring lifelong skills to our students. So that's where we began. We began in 2013. We actually kicked off in 2014. It's 2019 now, and so as I said, we're halfway through this 10-year referendum. There were three main goal areas, or three areas of work we designed. They were digital content, anytime, anywhere learning, and personalized data. In the digital content area, our goal was to make access and transform the work and the access to content in more flexible forms and more formats for our students and for our learners and for our teachers. What came with that was devices, of course. We rolled out one-to-one starting that year, that fall, 2014. We are now a one-to-one district. Over those last 5 years, we've measured what I would call an implementation goal. That is, it's a goal that measures whether we are seeing the participation of the implementation. Every year that we've measured, this number tends to go up, and this is our most recent measure of January of last year, that 82% of our students were reporting that they were using some form of digital content 3 or more times a day. An implementation goal doesn't say a lot about quality, and so we just want to make sure that we're on our way. This is a team effort, and so in addition to that content, it takes teachers who are doing all the heavy lifting in terms of transforming that content. It also takes our resources in terms of seeking out new forms of content, and it takes learners to engage in that content. The stat we are excited about is these other questions that we measure. The more qualitative measures are of what are students doing when they engage in that content. And so here are some of the skills that we measure year over year. Are you more engaged in doing spreadsheets as part of your normal work? A data analysis skill we would like all students to have. Are you engaging with the data that you need to make educational decisions for yourself that we provide in the hub? We've seen the use of ebooks and video content go up continuously throughout these last 5 years, and the amount of collaboration, student-to-student collaboration and student-to-teacher collaboration. That stood out to me early in this referendum drive as one of the goals that our community was asking for. Our employers asking for workers who have the ability to work on teams, to collaborate with others, to be creative, to problem solve. The Anytime, Anywhere learning category, we knew we had to tackle this foundational problem of access, and we took it on, and it's stabilized, and right now it's sitting at about a 2.5% capacity gap. That is 2.5% of our students who report that they still struggle to get internet access when they're away from school. 2.5% is far below our original estimates when we took on this challenge, and we're very happy that we've built the capacity for these students. With that change in content and comes a changing environment. You've been to some of our schools and seen some of the flex spaces. We have flex spaces and flex furniture in all of our buildings now, some big, some small, that enables that kind of student ownership that we're striving for. And then that third, I missed one, missed a slide. Sorry, my clicker is a little, I have to point at it, I guess. On top of that Anytime, Anywhere learning, the goal being to stretch the educational environment outside of the school and to embrace students where they're at and when they are ready to engage. In 1819, we launched BPS Online. We now have about 30 of our teachers teaching about 50 online courses to our students. 1 out of every 4 of our high schoolers last year took an online course taught by one of our staff. And because of that work, built on top of that strong foundation of digital content and access, we saw a drop by 80% of students who were leaving Bloomington to take outside online providers. So in the prior year, we had something like 600 students who took courses outside of Bloomington. For all sorts of reasons, we brought the vast majority of those students back into the district. The third category of NTL in that first 5-year stint was personalized data. Here we're talking about building the ecosystems of data that allow for our audiences, for students and families so that they can engage in their learning, decide what is the best choices to make on a nightly basis or on a daily basis, essentially to know what do they need to do to be successful. The hub is where all that data is housed for those students and families. And here you can see that our logins, our active logins from students and parents, mostly at the secondaries, has been stable around those numbers, around the 3,000 and 1,000 number. Across the whole district, we send a total of about 13,000 email digests per week. This is the information that goes out automatically to families about the school events that are happening, about homework that's happening, and about other things that are happening in students' lives. So very successful. Personalized data is also about the leadership in our district, and leadership includes how we make educational and program decisions as leaders. One of those programs that we're very proud of is the PGP. It's been through a couple of iterations. The PGP lives under the hub, and it really is an embodiment of all of that student data that can allow us to identify, or can allow us, a student to tell us, what do you want to do next with your life? And then we can help make that happen, as you saw with Allison here today.
So that was our first 5 years, which has been very exciting and has built a nice foundation for what's next. So with our next 5 years, we've pivoted to some new areas of focus. So I'm going to talk you through those now. So the first one is student-centered learning, and so that's really about those flex space environments and using those well, as well as using the tool set readily available to our students in order to adapt instruction and learning to the interests, aspirations, and needs of our students. Creative problem solving is all about making sure that our students aren't just consumers of content, but also creators of that content and those solutions that our world needs. And then the third one is empowering data, making sure that our staff, students, and of course our families have the data they need to make decisions. So in the area of student-centered, we have lots going on. Lots of professional development for our teachers and how do we use our tool set, instructional strategies, but also continuing the BPS online program. John just mentioned that we've got 50 courses offered so far. That's a great start, and we know that there's more courses that we'd like to offer. And so continuing to expand the course offerings, making sure that they're accessible to all of our students. And then we're really excited this year to be focusing a lot on professional growth for our teachers in an online format. Online has become sort of sought after by our students as well as our staff in terms of the flexibility of time, meeting our staff and students where it's at, and so where they're at. And so we're excited about that expansion as well. The second area is around creative problem solvers. You heard John talk about digital content and a lot about how our teachers were the ones in the first 5 years creating that digital content. This pivot is a lot about making sure our students have the skills to make that digital content, that they get to create and not just consume. That could be anything from creating with typical tools like word processing or slides like we've made here, or videos, or like you heard Allison talk about computer programming. One of the programs we're really excited about launching over the next 5 years is the Computer Science K-12 program. We started this year looking at, by launching the Computer Science Immersion program at both Indian Mounds and Poplar Bridge. We will expand those over the next 5 years, and then also look at how does that program continue into the other middle schools as well as into middle school and high school as those students age up. And then the third element is all about empowering data. So we have a lot of data. We want to make sure that that data is harnessed for good and for the power of all of our stakeholders. And so we started last year looking at our data ecosystem for our leaders at the K-12 end-of-year reports, and really looking at how we can make that interactive and make sure that we can answer the questions our leadership teams have. But then also looking at how do we expand beyond the K-12 data system and look at early childhood information. What do we know about our learners as they come into the K-12 system, and how can we adapt as a system to those kiddos? And then also looking at what's happening as our students leave us in the graduate longitudinal data system, studying what's happened to our students since they left as in 2008, is kind of as far back as we go. Follow them into their college and career, and then loop back and say, how does that inform our practices now? Looking at how have those students earned, for example, how have they completed their next course of study, and how does that impact our current students' PGP work? How do we advise them, and how do we make decisions based on that knowledge? So those are some of the things we're up to in the next 5 years.
So with that, we will take your questions.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for coming. It's always fun to see you guys here.
Yeah.
I had 2 questions. I'll try and make them quick. You don't have to go back to the slide. You talked about video, like a flipped classroom. Is that across all grades? Is it predominantly in elementary schools, or where are we seeing more of the video learning?
Yeah, I would say that video over the course of the last probably 10 years has played a role in our students' education. And so I would say it's used differently across the board depending on the content area and the teacher. But the idea of flipped learning is really looking at how do students take in information perhaps at home, and kind of taking in that maybe lecture-based 5-minute video at home, and then doing the practice work and the application in class. And so I would say that model continues to grow throughout our system as teachers find it appropriate for the students that they have in front of them.
Sure. And then the second one goes back to the, I remember when we were talking about the one-to-one before we had the referendum, was it going to be what are they called, iPads? Was it going to be this new thing called a Chromebook? And would they stand up to the rigors of student use? I know that we're not on the first generation of Chromebooks. We have graduated to the next generation. Are they holding up? Are they meeting our expectations? Are they physically, the Chromebooks themselves, are they staying together? Are you seeing more come in that need immediate service, Band-Aids, or?
Yep, all of the above. Every new generation has its new improvements and its new challenges, and so we went through Screwgate, that's what we called it, for one of our seasons. And I could show you pictures if you ever come by the tech department and you look in our back room at a large metal shelf of incoming and outgoing Chromebooks, you get the sense of how we're dealing at scale. We buy about 3,000 Chromebooks a year because we're trying to introduce them on a 3-year replacement cycle at 3rd grade, at 6th grade, and at 9th grade. They've held up to their expectations, and so over time, every time we get a new opportunity, we get to add a rear-facing camera, for instance. We get a little more ruggedness around the corners in the new model. We get a new touch screen. So now all of our Chromebooks, new Chromebooks that we buy, are touch screen enabled, as opposed to those first couple of generations. So yeah, it's held up.
And then just one quick follow-up. Sorry to monopolize the questions, but what kind of follow-up are you getting from students on the Chromebooks? They like them, they love them, they want more of them, or they're just like, "No, I don't need them," or what are you hearing?
I would say it's sort of like as we might have wanted to be, it's like a background tool. It's not as fancy and glossy as, hey, I went to school and got this awesome gaming machine, which I think has disappointed some kids,
Yep.
to be honest.
That's okay.
And at the same time, like I sent both of my boys off to college with Chromebooks, and they're in their 3rd and 4th year of college using those Chromebooks because it's really meant to be a workhorse machine, low maintenance, like the toaster of a computer. It's not, you don't have to be a genius to run it. It's meant to be durable enough, but inexpensive enough that it's not gonna be your left arm if something goes wrong and you have to buy a new one. So it served us well in that regard. If you poll students and ask, would you like a faster, sleeker, prettier machine, you'll always hear that you want something a little better. But we see the results in the documents kids produce, in the work students produce. So I'm not worried about our choice.
Great, thank you.
And then as a follow-up to his follow-up, what are the disciplinary, things that the students have to sign, a responsibility, and I'll take care of it, all those types of things that, does it go home with the family, and does the family know that the kids are responsible and supposed to be responsible?
Yeah, absolutely. Our schools have done a great job. I think it comes a lot with beginning of the year expectations. We work on a very cycle-based system, right? And so at the beginning of the year, teachers are laying out the expectations for their classrooms, and schools are laying out the expectations for being a student at that school. And this is just part of normal business. And so absolutely, we have kind of standard documentation, sort of an agreement that goes home with our families. And then really our staff does a wonderful job reinforcing that throughout the year. Remember, this is the expectation. I have 2 students in the system myself who have I've watched their teachers sort of send home reminders, gentle reminders, we're seeing more of this, remember, here are the rules, and they reinforce that with families as well as students throughout the year. And so, yes, absolutely, we do it up front, but then I'm really proud of how well our staff do along the way as well.
Go ahead.
I had a couple questions. One, I was at a MSBA gathering on Friday, and one district was talking about the challenges that some of their parents are having to find access to the internet for their students. I know that we have worked to alleviate that for students where it's a financial concern. Are there others that maybe don't qualify for that and still are having trouble, and what can we do about that?
So there's no financial ties to what we offer. It's just sort of the gap solution we have in place is having mobile hotspots, cellular hotspots, available in the media center, available for checkout. And so I monitor periodically throughout the year and ask our schools, do you have a wait list? Do you have some sitting around? And then I'll move them from school to school to make sure resources are distributed where they're needed. And so I keep pretty good tabs on it. To make sure that they're available to our students. And we don't ask a financial question if you need it. As long as your parents haven't opted out of giving you that resource, you're free to check it out.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. I read a study today about the importance of students limiting screen time. And the question was, when they're working on things within school and then they take something home as well, that they're finding that students actually lose creativity. And I'm wondering, when I say losing creativity, meaning finding alternative activities to do, and that it's negatively impacting them, where they are struggling with social relationships. So given that, besides the letters that go out, what they call them, tech tips, I think it is, besides those going out, is there something given at the beginning of the year to parents about how this is a tool and the importance of restricting screen times?
Yeah, so there's always more to do, and as you all know, if you pay any attention to what's happening in our culture, we're all going through a thing together, which is sort of how technology is becoming more and more pervasive in all of our lives. I see kids getting smarter about realizing when screen time is an issue. A lot of what I read and is talked about in the media around screen time is I sort of substitute in the word social media. So it's about being on Facebook, being in gaming forums, being in those places where it can not always have a positive influence on your psyche. We try to be very deliberate about what we do in school so that your use of technology is part of your education. And then in the last couple of years, we've taken on the task called Balanced Tech, which is about helping inform parents, the tech tips you're talking about, helping empower parents to stay in the lead of that technology because it's your home, these are your children. You get to decide what technology is used in your home, how it's used, when it's used. The school district isn't telling you you must do this, that, or the other thing. So some of those tech tips are about putting your devices to bed at night, about structure around when you do homework, making clear lines between when it's homework time and when it's entertainment, ensuring that you have a balance of physical activity as well as kind of lean back activities, watching Netflix or watching TV. And so empowering parents is one of our primary tools there.
And do we have that in a variety of languages?
We work through PTSAs. Those are our best avenue to get to the nuances of any school. We've worked with our Office of Educational Equity folks. We've been to PTSA twice this fall already, the district PTSA where everybody gathers. And so we're trying to find those avenues. As you know, it's a struggle to get parents to come out at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. And it'll get tougher as the weather gets tougher. But we typically have a presence either with the school staff, our media directors or tech staff, or one of us at parent nights. And we encourage those. Those are places to touch base with families as well.
Okay. Also, I was assigned to Kennedy this year as my ambassador school, and I was there first day of school, and our online students were having to come in, check in, sign some paperwork, take some paperwork home. And so I talked to some of the students about, why they wanted to take the online classes And some said sometimes they struggle with anxiety being in the classroom. And so it really helps some of those students, I think. I'm glad to see we have as many offerings as we do. And then another funny thing is that my neighbor and her daughter were heading off to the park near our house. And she says, this is what online PE looks like, as they were running to do some tennis and that. So, I just thought, well, it's at home in the neighborhood. They're doing it, and it's working into their schedule.
Online Phi-Ed, I think, is a light bulb moment for a lot of people. It was for me. When you realize the number of students who take online Phi-Ed, and it's not because they do it for a variety of reasons. It's not my place to judge why they do it, but the feedback we get is around, a lot of it's around anxiety, around social anxiety, and around all the stuff that comes with taking Phi-Ed. What our Phi-Ed teachers have done, which has been amazing, is that online Phi-Ed course isn't about, it's about learning lifelong skills, how to develop a workout routine, how to learn more about your nutritional habits, all the things that we aspire to do as adults, like getting into those healthy routines that really don't require 25 kids and 3 bins of balls and a gym to do. They just require like that kind of personal effort. So I think online Phi-Ed's terrific, even though it still strikes people as being a little bit of a weird fit.
Yeah. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, as long as they do it while they're riding a stationary bicycle, then that's
Right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you both for this update. What we're doing, it's very interesting, and it's amazing to see how far we've gone in the past 5 years. It's a lot of work, which we all appreciate for sure. One of the questions I have as an educator myself, and I find a lot of benefit in using technology in the classroom. I find it to be a great tool for learning and working. But as an educator too, I know that sometimes we feel overwhelmed, because of the amount of work that we have and having to go through, another training on technology, or we're working on something and we're trying to master that, and all of a sudden we master it, and then all of a sudden you come to us and here you go, something new. My question is, how are we working together with our teachers, working with them to make sure that we are taking into consideration their needs, that we're listening to their voices? How do you work with teachers to kind of alleviate a little bit of the stress that changes like those can bring?
I'll start, and then Katrina will pitch in, I'm sure. One of the points of focus when we started this whole effort was what we called the soft landing. And so when you institute a change into a large organization like this, you have to take into account that people come with different facilities, with different excitement around something. And so we knew going into one-to-one that giving every student a device was going to come with some of what you're talking about. It was going to initiate some stress within the system. So what we typically do a half year or more of pre-planning before we do any sort of large-scale technology rollout. Online learning, we kicked it off in 18-19, but we really were planning and writing those courses in collaboration with teachers in 17-18. Our computer science programming started last year with a lot of capacity building for our leadership and for our teachers. We took some of the Poplar Bridge and Indian Mountains teachers off-site to a professional development activity that helps build their capacity and their excitement. They have the innate skills, as you said. It's really about time and energy and what's going to come off my plate if I'm going to be teaching computer science, for instance. And so the best thing we can do is try to weave in initiatives so you're not doing a new thing, but you're teaching your existing core instructional materials in a new way, and then get you the skills so that you can pick up and be self-sufficient. For Indian Mounds and Poplar Bridge, we also add resources. So we have an extra teacher on staff at each of those sites so that they come in. The first lesson you teach as a third grade teacher at Poplar Bridge in computer science isn't taught by the classroom teacher. It's taught by one of our staff, Whitney, who's also a Bloomington teacher who happens to be super skilled at this stuff, has the training, and she will do a gradual handoff of those lessons to those staff. So all of that is to say, like, we know we are a people-oriented system, and it's our job to make that part of making these efforts successful is taking care of the people part of these efforts as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and once again about teachers, I know that having the tool close to you and close to the kids, makes it easier to maybe try to develop a lesson, that to the point where we could say that a teacher, or if I'm a teacher, I could say, okay, here you go. This is for today. Everything is online now, right? Everything you need to know is right there in your system. Go to your Chromebook and work on it. So my question in this case would be, how much of the instruction part, how much is taking place in the classroom? How much of the time are we seeing our teachers taking the full responsibility for teaching, for instruction, versus do it and you're on your own? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I would say that technology is a tool, and it's meant to, it'll never displace an instructor. A good instructor is going to be a good instructor. Yeah. What technology can do, which includes physical devices, but it also includes access to the internet, so I don't have to take my class to the lab on Tuesday because that's the time that's available, but I can operate in the moment because this real world thing is happening. So it's the tools, it's the access, and it's the resources that are available. I would say those are tools in teachers' toolbox. I can't recall a situation where we would say to a teacher, okay, you go down and you sit over there, and we'll take it from here, that kids will just do school. Because school just doesn't work like that. School is a very human endeavor. Learning is a very human endeavor about connecting context for instructional materials, transferring it from a teacher to a student. So,
yeah, and I'm sure our teachers are very responsible anyway. But then regarding the students, so we're giving the students the tools. We're making sure that they have access, right, at home. They have the device with them. How or what are you doing to guarantee that no one is staying behind? Because even though if you have the device in your hand, you could still kind of fall behind. You're maybe confused, or for some students, it might take a little longer to really get into the things of navigating the whole system. So how are we making sure that all of our students are really advancing, that they're all actually using all those opportunities at an equal pace, or pretty equal pace, and that we don't have specific groups of kids that are staying behind even though they have the device in their hand?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that boils down to what, so in my mind, you're kind of talking about balanced tech choices, our effort to talk with teachers, families, and students about how they're using technology. Mm-hmm. I think teachers get to make a lot of the choices about what kind of learning with technology happens in their classes, and that's really where students are getting those experiences, right? And so the more we support our teachers in deciding today's a no Chromebook day because what I want to accomplish for learning doesn't really make sense to do on that Chromebook, or it'll be better because my kids can create and express themselves in one of these multiple ways. And so giving kids the opportunities to do those things in class, in context, when they're supported by their peers and their teachers, I think is where you achieve that equity. So I really think for us, it's about continuing to have those conversations about teachers so that they can be reflective in their practice to that end that you spoke of, to make sure that all of our kids have great tech literacy that can take them wherever they want to go.
Right. And I know that we work really hard, try to be on the same page, with teachers and administrators, but it's very important that we continue to keep in mind, that we need to work in collaboration with all different departments just to make sure that that we guarantee that everybody is having access to all opportunities in that.
Yeah, and I'm hearing you talk about the strategic direction of learning supports, right? Which is to ensure that
Yes.
students, people are watching vulnerable students and students in need so that they can have an equitable educational experience. It's not just us. It is the whole organism of education that
Right.
helps students and families succeed.
Right, and I have just the last question. So where do you see we might need improvement in the technology area?
Good question. Some of the 1920 projects that you saw up here are continuations of our existing work. So we don't forget about access, it continues on. We don't forget about balanced tech choices, it continues on. One of the most challenging areas that we could all help focus on is the changing environment of technology. Parsing out where is it valuable to have a device in front of you, where is it valuable to have digital content, and where is it valuable not to have digital content or a device in front of you.
Okay.
That's the part where I feel like our staff controls or has some level of control over 6 or 7 hours of a day. But students are going out into this world and they need guidance outside of that school day too. And I think if I had to ask for help from the community, it would be in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Bennett.
So as the youngest school board member here, I just got to say that I'm excited to be part of a district that is embracing 21st century learning, and that we're on the cutting edge of technology. I mean, these things like the PGP and flex space and in-time learning and online classroom, that's something that all these other districts want to do as well, and they're following us because we're the leaders in the state on this. So it's great to be part of. So thank you guys for all your hard work in that. Yeah. And my question is, when we get to the online learning, so the teachers that are teaching those online learning classes, are they doing that in lieu of teaching a traditional class? Or are they doing their traditional classes and then also doing online classes on top of that?
It's built into their full-time equivalency, so a typical high school teacher would teach 5 sections at any given time, and so if they're teaching 1 or 2 sections, then that replaces a face-to-face class.
Okay.
Yep.
So
It's a lot of work to teach online.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
As much, if not more, than face-to-face.
Yeah.
They work hard.
But it's a great product. I mean, when I was in school, we had it was like half online, half coming to school, and I love that aspect of it. You don't have to go to class every single day. You can maybe go once a week, so I enjoyed that, and I'm sure our students are as well, which is great that we have it in our schools now. So how many students do you think are taking? I know you said there's like 50 classes. How many students do you think are taking online classes?
Our student count is 840 last year.
Okay.
And that was, and most of those took more than 1 online credit. So it's 840 head count, which accounts for about 1 out of every 4 of our high school students.
Okay, awesome. All right, thank you.
Regarding the online classes, when a student is struggling within that class, is there a teacher face-to-face they can go and talk with?
Yes, the teacher is the teacher of record. There might be different communication methods, but there must be communication channels available. We don't have, to my knowledge, we don't have any students who are entirely online. And so even though if a student might be in my 2nd hour online class, they're still in the building the other 6 hours of the day. Mm-hmm. And so if I was the online teacher, I would be available to them. Even if they couldn't come to me 2nd hour when I have that as part of my teaching assignment, there's lots of other forms of communication.
Mm-hmm. I've heard online teachers express that a common methodology for that is during academic seminars, sort of that flex period throughout the week, where students get the extra help they need, whether that's from a face-to-face class or online, and it's sort of a block of time that's specifically meant for that. And so online can certainly, online catch-up can kind of happen during that time too, and can be a face-to-face experience if that's what the student needs as well.
How often is that a week? Is it every day or
The
just a few
academic
days?
seminar, believe at high school it's once a week. Our middle schools have a similar model, but it's different.
Okay.
One of our Kennedy teachers, Catherine Haddad, if you're there, you might track her down and talk to her about it. She reported that she got to know her students better in online than she ever did in her face-to-face courses, partly because I think these different channels of outreach that aren't common when I'm going to see you every day, so why would I email you, or why would I create an introductory video, or so on. So her experience was like, I didn't expect this. My communication is actually better with my students now than it is in my face-to-face courses.
Okay.
Thank you. I just want to invite, if there's any of the students that are still here, if you have a comment about online learning or
This is good.
any of the technology things. I mean, I saw some heads nodding back there, but,
Were they nodding good? Or
yeah, they were nodding good.
You guys love it, right? It's all perfect, just what you thought?
Are you taking, raise your hand, have you taken an online course? Are you taking an online course? Oh, at Normandale? Okay. And what are you taking? Calculus?
I'm taking online gym and I'm taking an online course.
Okay, I just thought that since they were there, they wanted
Yep.
to tell us what we're doing right or wrong.
Yeah.
So now is their chance. Okay, thank you. Thanks for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
your report.
So do you have to dress out for online gym? I'm guessing, no?
All right, next up, we have the Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant application. Would someone like to make that resolution? You want that resolution?
Madam Chair?
Please.
Be it resolved, the School Board of Independent School District 271 authorizes the administration at Kennedy High School and Jefferson High School to submit a grant application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation requesting financial support for high school youth to participate in athletics and fine arts programs. The school board supports the resolution attached to the grant application to offset student activity fees.
Second.
Thank you. Superintendent, would you like
Thank you.
to
The
speak to that?
Minnesota State High School League has a sister organization named the Minnesota State High School League Foundation. The foundation, the High School League gives the foundation money to provide support to students to participate in athletic and fine arts extracurricular activities. The foundation provides support through grants. Both of our high schools are applying for support funding for activity fees.
Any questions?
Madam Chair?
Please.
Just a quick comment. I want to say thanks to those that work on finding and researching and filling out these grants. It's not an easy thing to do.
Anybody else? Hearing no more comments, all in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? None. That brings us to board member reports. Who'd like to go first?
I'll go, Madam Chair.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to condense this into one. I'll do my best to stay under the time limit. So just about everybody in Bloomington knows the 98th Street between Penn and France. You've either traveled east or west on it. Last week I was going west, and one of our school buses was traveling east. The school bus stopped to pick up students. Most, but not all, of the traffic stopped. So what I'd like to do is just reiterate safety first. If you're not sure what you're supposed to do in that position, it's not going to harm anyone to stop. It's 2 lanes, both directions, but it is not divided. There's no permanent median in between. The law says that you have to stop. When that stop arm is out, when the red light is flashing, it's the same as a red light. You wouldn't just stop and go at a red light. So stop, wait until it's completely retracted, take a look to make sure that there aren't any students running to get onto that bus. If it's in the afternoon, that they're not darting across the street because for whatever reason they might think they could. Just take some time to notice what's going on. I know that we're all busy. I know that everyone wants to get somewhere in a hurry. But just take a few extra minutes, a few extra seconds, make sure that you understand what's going on. And again, if you're not sure what to do when that stop arm comes out, just stop. It's not the end of the world, and we want to make sure that we keep everybody safe. My notes tell me that back in 2017, the fine in Minnesota went from $300 to $500. That's a hefty fine, and let's just hope that nobody ever has to pay it because everyone's paying attention. So I'll end my PSA there. Thank you.
Ready to run it?
Had a busy week last week. I was connecting and learning about contract negotiations. It's my first experience, and so taking notes from Mary and learning. And then I met with the Senior High Bloomington Student Advisory Council, and combined from Jefferson and Kennedy. They will have an announcement, I'm sure, at our next meeting what it was about, but they were gathering a meeting, not sure if anybody would show up, maybe 10 people. They had 25 students show up to plan something. And the energy was very encouraging. They were very excited. They have vision. And so I'll not steal their thunder, but just I was very encouraged by the incredible amount of energy. Just being out in the community and meeting people asking about what's happening with the school board. I was just at an event, and they have concerns about the elections, so we want to encourage you to do your research. For the candidates, we have 2 of our incumbents that are running again, and we encourage you to research them specifically, and then the others that are there. So I know that the newspaper has articles, and Dick Bergstrom wrote something about researching, and he didn't say anything, so I wanted to encourage that as well.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I attended an event at City Hall with the City of Bloomington. They had a 2020 census meeting with Rachel Dame, who's the project manager for Census 2020. And she also happened to be at the Association of Metropolitan School Districts meeting, which I attended on Friday. So there's one report, 2 reports in one. So just to give you a little more of idea about the census, if you remember that the first invitation to fill out the census will be starting on March. There will be 3 different reminders, March, April, beginning of April, and end of April. If you don't get your census done, then you'll be getting those reminders. The official census day will be April 1st. And from April 28 until the end of August, then if you did not complete your census, then you will be getting somebody knocking on your door. There are different options this year for completing your census. That would be an online option, over-the-phone option, and also paper. There will be 7 questions, and there won't be a citizenship question included in the form. One interesting thing we heard about the census was that historically, the census misses young children, people of color, indigenous people, rural and urban, low-income homes. But especially children. In 2010, there was 1.3 million children who were missed from being counted. That's a lot. That's a big number. And Hennepin County had an undercount of 230,000 people that were missed. So how does that affect us if there is an undercount? It affects us in terms of food security. School breakfast and lunch programs are affected by that. Children's health insurance programs, educational instruction funding, which includes grants and special education grants for schools. There's also decreased representation at the national level, and growth of resources to the community also get affected by that. such as roads, schools, hospitals, and also business locations when there is an undercount. So for undercount prevention, they're requesting the same that the Department of Education had requested from us, is to find ways to communicate through our students the importance of completing your census. You know, that we can pass that type of information through curriculum that comes from the Department of Education to our students and encourage them about having their families complete their census on time. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
So, let's see, I was able to make it to the PTA meeting for Valley View Elementary, and they're kind of doing their PTA meetings differently this year. They're doing something called Partners in Education, where they're partnering with the school to put on an event to try to get more people to participate. So it's kind of broken into thirds. So like the first third is dinner, so everyone comes in and they get to have food, and they serve pizza that night. And then the second third is the PTA meeting, and they do their business. And then the third meeting is kind of a parent-ed component. And it was interesting because the Partners of Education, it's pie, so they kind of were building up on that pie theme. So they had, pizza pie for dinner, and then like pumpkin pie for dessert. So that was really fun. And it was pretty well attended. There was a lot of parents there. And for the parent ed component, Principal Mayland was doing kind of like the ABCs of school. So kind of teaching parents how to be the best advocates and best teachers for their children, and what to expect at a parent-teacher conference, and how to advocate for their kids during parent-teacher conferences. So it was a really good event. And then also later that week, I was able to make it to their fall carnival. And usually I take both my kids to these carnivals, and they love them. But now that my daughter's in middle school, I think she's too cool. So it was just my son and I that went to it. And they had the brick oven school bus pizza, brick oven pizza school bus, which is pretty cool. It's like a little school bus that has an actual huge brick oven fireplace in there, and they make made-to-order pizzas, and they're delicious.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so that was a fun event. And then also for Kennedy, my other school, I was able to make several events for that. Made it to their homecoming game, and they actually won their homecoming game, which was awesome. I think the first time they've won a homecoming game since I've been on the board. So that was fantastic.
Allie isn't here to tell us about it.
What's that?
Too bad Allie isn't here.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll tell you all that. But then I also was able to go to their homecoming dance afterwards, and they kind of do like a casual type of homecoming, which the students really liked. They don't have to worry about buying a dress for one event, so they can just it was kind of like a tropical theme. And then Principal Campbell was able to give Dawn and I a tour of some of their new labs, so their automotive lab and their construction lab and their manufacturing lab, which is really cool, trying to emphasize those trades and kind of like a precursor to the College and Career Academy, to see if they can spark that interest and see if there's anyone that's interested in going into the trades, because that's where the jobs are. And when the kids learn that, well, I can graduate high school and make $80,000 a year doing this type of stuff, so it's really good for them to see that. And also, I was able to make it to their National Honor Society induction ceremony with several of the board members, and that was a lot. And that was a lot of fun. And then also, well into negotiations with custodial transportation. We've had 2 sessions, and we have another one scheduled for next week. I can't really give you any more on that. So that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else over here? Go ahead.
So today, Osa Middle School had their Step It Up event, and so both gyms were full of all the inflatables and all these fun things for them to do, and some other games, and like prizes they could win also. So it seemed to be having a very good time there, and lots of happy students, and very well-staffed with parent volunteers. So I thought it was nice that they got so many parents to also come and help out. Then later today, I also got to spend some time with our earliest learners by visiting the early childhood program at Indian Mounds, and luckily I got there at free play time, so I could sit down and join and play with some preschoolers, and that's got to be the highlight of anybody's day if you get to spend time with preschoolers. So they were very funny, some of the things they told me, of course, as usual. Last week, the Special Education Community Advisory Council met, and they had a presentation on the Vitals app. For people that aren't familiar, it is an app for families of people with special needs, health concerns, those types of things. And so if someone is wearing the transmitter, then people that are authorized, when that person is in a certain number of feet, that alerts them that they're there and there's information. It could be like health information, but it could also be things like ways to communicate with that person if they have communication issues. It could also have information like calming techniques, et cetera, all that type of stuff available for emergency personnel, or it could, some school districts are also using it so that other staff in the building can also be alerted that, these are some things that will help the student. So that was their presentation. And then the PTSA Council had a presentation on the danger of vaping. And the person that did that brought all of these examples of all of the things that now look like markers and pens and highlighters and other things, and they're really ways to vape. And it was very informational for the parents that were there. I think most of the parents were, really interested in learning. She passed around all kinds of samples. She passed around all the different flavors that are out there that are clearly marketed to children by, they're not flavors that probably adults are trying out for them. And so there was some of the information from the CDC had a thing about the Juul, which are the little pods, and that said that the Juul liquid refills are a single Juul pod can contain as much nicotine as a pack of 20 regular cigarettes. So not only are they using these, but they're using, stuff that is way more than what it would have been if they had a cigarette. It was very interesting. There was even a sweatshirt that you can get that the tie is a way for them to vape, and the little pod goes in the back. So unbelievable the way that they have marketed to students and young people, and so that staff and parents need to be so aware of all these other things that look like jump drives and pens and sweatshirt hoodies and everything else. So it was very interesting. So thank you.
Did they mention anything about any efforts coming at the legislature about that?
This presentation, not that I remember.
Yeah, we had met with Melissa Franson, and that was the big topic that we were talking about too, and she says that's a pretty high priority item,
Yeah.
the legislature.
Something needs to be done.
To do away with the marketing, isn't that what the legislature and that kind of stuff? But I don't know, I don't know, they'll still be able to sell the things that look like markers. I don't know exactly what the legislation looks like. But I can send these around if you guys want to see. Like, there's a backpack and it has it labeled. I'll send it around, you guys want to look at it. It has all these things that would normally be in a backpack, but it's labeled on the back what they really are, if you want to look at it, so. Thank you.
Superintendent?
Thank you. Tomorrow, the Edina Caldwell Banker Realty firm is having a sales meeting at Jefferson High School. 50 to 60 realtors are expected to attend. Caldwell Banker has given us time on their agenda to talk about our school district, to tell how our district is set apart from other school districts. And my second topic is Commissioners' School Finance Working Group is going to be meeting again this week on Thursday, and I'll be giving a presentation at that meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Is there anything else to come before the board this evening? If not, this meeting's adjourned.